Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments, we're going to bring the casket of Stephen Shapiro to his grave. Rabbi Karen Kedar, Cantor Jennifer Frost from B'nai Jehoshua Beth Elohim will be officiating. We welcome those of you who are online, and for those of you who are here, we ask you to take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. And after we bring his casket to his grave, the Rabbi and Cantor will perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya.
This is a very sacred moment, a holy command. We call this moment in our tradition to accompany the dead for burial. So though the crowd is very small here in this moment, there are over 200 people on the screens watching, holding you, being with you. In the world of the heart and the spirit, you cannot be alone. An open heart and a broken heart is the same heart. And so as we bring him to this very sacred place, a place that has history and his family and has community and is so grounded in holiness, as we bring him to this moment, we also ask you, the family, to take the ribbon that has been given to you and to tear it. As you tear this ribbon, which is a really ancient tradition, Rachel David will help you. There it is. You say Baruch Dayan Ha'amet. Just as you tear this ribbon, so is your heart torn. The rising of the sun and its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When you are weary and in need of strength, you will remember him. When you are lost and sick at heart, you will remember him. As long as you have joys you yearn to share, you will remember him, and he will always be with you, loving you, surrounding you. In your heart and in your mind, we will always, always remember him. The 23rd Psalm.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino tedeshayer b'tseini al mei menuchot yanaleini nafshi ينحني بمجد صدق ينحني بمجد صدق لمن شمو قم كي إله بجد سلمابد لو يرى كي أتا إمادي شيفتها وميشنتها هيما يناخموني تعروخ لفناي شوخان نجد صورنا إيشان تابشام من روشي كسيرة بيا أختوب بخسد يردفوني كل يمي خياي كل يمي خياي بشابتي بيت أدوناي لأورخ يمين أدوناي روي لو أخسر أدوناي روي لو أخسر.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemy. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This beautiful psalm, the 23rd Psalm, recognizes that you are sitting in the valley of the shadows, but it also is giving you hope because you are pursued. You are pursued by goodness and mercy, which will be with you all the days of your life. Chesed, grace and love and kindness. Rabbi Shapiro of blessed memory taught me to say these words. And so I say them for him right now. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, which means God has given and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. We are an ancient people, well acquainted with grief and the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave. It doesn't get better than the name of Stephen Shapiro. So now with Job we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given us a loved one who will never be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our heart. Adonai Lakach, and for some reason, in a mysterious way, you have taken him. So we pray for strength, so that our broken hearts can turn into an altar of trust, which we acknowledge God's sovereignty and say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. There are a few obligations that we do have at this moment. We're already doing them. We'll have our full funeral back when we get back to the house and invite everybody to be a part of that, and then Shiva and words would be said. But here in this moment right now, in this very sacred moment right now, we acknowledge that there is something bigger than us that is ultimately mysterious and unknowable, and that anything we really want to know, we just can't. Why is not the good question. But what? What do I need to do to live a life deep in memory and sacred goodness? And how? How do I take this grief and turn it in service of others? In this moment too, in this moment where the ground is open, we also, according to our tradition, offer a prayer of forgiveness. All relationships are human and therefore flawed. And so we imagine ourselves saying to him, hey, I'm so sorry. And him saying to us, what for? And then him saying to you, I'm sorry. And you saying, never mind. And so as you sit here in this moment, each of you in your own relationships, in your own private, ever so private and tender grief, I invite you to offer that prayer privately, to send it out like we will send out the grains of the earth from Israel, and like we will bury him in this moment. We say the mourner's prayer, El Malei Rachamim. Please rise.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochena b'maromim, Amsei menucha nechona, Tachat kanfei hashchina, Im kedoshim utehorim, Kezohar harakim nazirim, Et nishmat Katriel ben Harav Mordechai v'Hanna, Shalach le'olamo, Ba'al harachamim, Yasirehu b'seiter knafav, Le'olamim v'yitzror ha'chayim et nishmato, ינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Stephen A. Shapiro. He has entered into eternity. O God of grace and mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, as we say, Amen. We offer the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yom echon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam ol almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, v'yithale, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudasha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. O say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Go your way, for God has called you. Go your way, and may God be with you. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. We offer 3 measures of earth upon the grave, an ultimate act of love. Rachel, I give you this, which is a bag of earth straight from the land of Israel, which has been such a redemptive spiritual place for you and your family on so many levels. And you'll see that the earth lands and it flies away, and all that is good and eternal in this life is represented right here.
It's okay. I'll just give you a little bit. Because we all went to Israel. We have to be just.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who wish to come forward to place earth into the grave, the tradition is to place 3 measures of earth without handing the shovel from person to person. The funeral service will continue at 1 p.m. and that information is on our website. Also, the Shiva information is there too, which you can log on. Memorial contributions to Stephen's memory, to the Ellyn Singh Ruby Union Institute, or the Hope Community. That information is on the service folder that you received here. For those of you who are online, all that information is on the website. At this time, we are going to turn off the volume, so then you can still witness the burial, but the volume will be turned off. And we thank you for those of you who are attending online.
Ben? I'm not done yet. I just want to make sure anyone that wanted to do this.
We have more earth. We can get you more earth.
Oh, okay, okay.
Do you want earth from Israel? Do you want to play some earth from Israel? You can, with more earth. Jeremy, can we just get another bag of earth? Here, come.
Okay.
Got some more there. Here's more earth from Israel. Folks, I forgot to tell you, you need to have gloves on. Oh, have to drum. If you don't have gloves on, we have plastic gloves. You're fine. Here, let me give you.
I think you will.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab it.
Could you put the baseball in?
Yes. Ball is in.
I see. Okay. He would say that.
I will. I'm just trying to look away from her.
Standing on the
Yeah.
Surrounded.
Yep. 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 This is going to be the best job of my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment we're going to close the grave. So for those of you who wish to shovel by hand, please come forward. And then when you're done, we'll ask the gentleman to close the grave.
Yeah, no, I'm done. My hands
Toss?
Okay, but wait.
Hey, Dad. Try to keep it in Come on now. Come on now. What do you get used to call. Yep. So the sweets are there. I think my father is might be right here. Yeah. Because then the swigs, the Eggerts, yeah, where they're right.
A lot of good people to be there.
That's crazy. This is swigs. Which of us? Eggerts, swigs, Sam Swig.
Miriam Boone. Yeah.
They must be Allen's. Sorry, Ellyn.
No.
Oh, good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to turn the online portion off.
Welcome, everybody. I see you're all coming into the room. We'll start in just a few minutes. You've been muted on entry, so there's nothing wrong with your screen or your computer.
Ya Eli, 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 ya Eli, Eli, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya Eli, 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 ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, Ella. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, Ella. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, Ella. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, Ella, ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, la. Ya Ella, 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 ya Ella, 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 ya la la, Ella, ya Ella, Ella, Ella.
We are so sorry for your loss. Your community is still entering into our sacred space, and we have come to learn that though we are not physically in proximity to one another, we are spiritually connected heart to heart. Your community is here. People are still entering the room. I want you to know that the family is looking in gallery mode and sees all of you who are there and sees all of your faces.
I get your faces.
We are making sure that everybody stays muted during this time, that we'll have the actual service. We did the burial earlier today and are about to have our funeral service. And of course, tonight, Shiva, and also Saturday night, both at 7:00 to register. We invite you to offer your condolences in the chat. Many of you are, if not all of you, are familiar with the chat box in Zoom. We will save that and recording this service as well. And if you want to offer a memory or a condolence or a blessing or a prayer in the chat box below, feel free to do it right here. I think it's time now to go into spotlight view. For those of you who want to stay in gallery mode to see one another, you may, but if you toggle over to spotlight, then you'll see focused on the screen is the family, myself, and Cantor Frost. Giving another second for people to enter into the room. Cantor, maybe one more time that beautiful nigun, and then we'll start.
Ya la la la, 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 ya la la la. Ya la la la, 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 ya la la la.
As I lift my eyes, I am searching for the words that describe, make sense, or at least comfort, words that summon me from the depth of my solitude. In the night, there is darkness, restless attempts to sleep, twisting and turning into the shadows as I seek a comfortable pose. I bring my knees to my chest, folding my dreams in half. Will the crease ever come out? And in the day, silent attempts to find hope, twisting, turning toward the light as I look for direction, a path, a way. It is not easy to find the way. And so, Esa Enai El Harim, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Heaven lays her head upon the mountaintop, and I begin to climb. What is the source of my life? I climb and gaze upon the vistas, more mountains, more horizons, never-ending moments where heaven meets earth, never-ending possibilities to meet the divine. Lift me, carry me, offer me courage. I lift my eyes to the summit, and as I climb, I find my help in the twisting and turning it takes to ascend. I have found a path. It is worn and charted by all of you who are summoned from solitude. We take your lead, and we know that in the most essential way, we are being carried up this mountain. And even now, dear God, even now, we are not alone.
Saena el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz Hine, hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Hine, hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Esa'enai el harim. Me'ayin yavo Ezri, Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh shamayim va'aretz.
When we were at the cemetery, we heard Cantor chant Psalm 23, and I read it as well. And it's a psalm that to me is a mantra for living and for surviving and for thriving. That beautiful, beautiful, sacred, holy ground, that cemetery. And I mentioned that at the end of the psalm, it says that, yes, and even though you are sitting by waters that are ever so still and sitting in the shadows of the valley, that the psalm ends with being pursued by tov v'chesed, goodness and grace, goodness and mercy, all the days of your life. And so before Cantor chants it yet again, I offer this. The valley of the shadow of death is a tender place, a place of questions and things unsaid, and grace, and love, and depth, and sadness. My heart is open, my breath is gentle. I am tired and sleepless, so I sit a while by the still waters, and you are with me. God is with me. I shall not fear.
Adonai roi lo echsar binod tayar bitseini al mei menuchot yanaleini nafshi yashovev yashovev yancheini v'maglei tzadak yancheini v'maglei tzadak leman neshamo Gam ki elach בגית המוות לא ירא, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר. אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As the service continues, there are over 80 messages of condolences to your family. And I urge everyone to continue to write those memories and those condolences. We have the service now, and later tonight at 7 o'clock, we'll have Shiva and other people will be able to speak, and also Saturday night at 7 o'clock. It was a moment when the universe held its breath. It was a moment that felt like everything tilted on an axis. Nothing will ever be the same again. Tears crossed the airwaves, not even words. Rachel, Natalie, you called. No words, just tears. We walked into Hanna's home. Hanna, you were sitting on your chair as you always do, and in your hand a needlepoint, stitch by stitch, lovingly putting Eliot's tallis bag together, one stitch at a time. We came in and gave you the terrible, terrible news, and I'm sure you said other things, but what I remembered you saying almost immediately is, but it didn't finish his tallis bag. You gripping Eliot's, and you reached over and somebody grabbed for you the tallit, the tallis bag for Steve. And we looked at it, and Ellyn said, opened it up onto the table and said, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And then immediately we recognized what was missing. The only part that you hadn't finished was the stitch by stitch lettering of his Hebrew name. And you just kept saying, I need to finish this. I need to finish this. Born in Buffalo, New York, quiet, shy, they always called children back in those days who didn't talk much or didn't have much to say or were a little clingy or loved the presence of their mother and father. Shy. If someone came to visit, he would cry. He cried his way all through nursery school, not like many children just when you left, but during the whole day. Once he got to grade school, he was already a reader, but he was so quiet that they put him in the lowest reading class until a discerning teacher walked by and noticed that he was reading. Steve, can you read? She said. And from then on, nobody, no teacher, is my guess, ever underestimated him again. He went into the highest group, and we all know that Stephen Shapiro was brilliant. That early day of reading reminded me, Hanna, of the time that he would come and visit you as Mark would sit in his chair. And one of the happiest moments he would have is to read to his father, reading out loud, as I'm sure you and Mark used to do. He's still in touch with those grade school friends. You started naming them. And those were good years. Those were such simple years. Don't we all wish we could go back to those years where play was throwing a ball in the front yard, throwing a ball in the backyard, throwing a ball against the wall, shooting baskets, trading baseball cards. It seemed to always be so intense on the play of life. Growing up in BJBE, it came very natural that he would take leadership role in SIFTI, a VP of SIFTI, and I think he started to understand, maybe then, maybe before, the enormous power that the bonds of a community have. Those friends back in those days, since the day that I came into this synagogue, would tell me back of those days. We're adults and we're still talking about the SIFTI days and the high school days. And those circles of friends, especially for Steve, would ground him in the most fundamental way and continued throughout his life. Those friends in college, Eliot, you said to me, remember this Allen Hall. You've got to say Allen Hall, and then I won't tell you the second part you said to me, but you can tell everybody later. Something about a basement. And then Asrui, part of that transformational generation, 10, 15, 20 years of Asrui, where people were ready to change the world and bring the movement into. Hanna, you and Mark, Rabbi Shapiro of blessed memory, were among those people who laid the foundation. And so your kids ran around until he became a camper himself, and then a counselor, and then a unit head. And he's still in touch with his Chalutzim campers. As a matter of fact, Rachel, I think you said he would just had a telephone call with them not too long ago, last week or so. Circles and circles of community and friends. The 7 families that were the MELD group. The big guys, now 3 left. The people in Mexico that you continue to stay friends with. Groups upon groups upon groups of people, more than I can say. All of you who are listening, this is your place now, just as he stayed in touch with you, to continue to form a community and carry them through this terrible time of grief. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Those college days were amazing. As we know, he was a brilliant writer, truly talented. He became friends with his college professors on a first name basis. He taught, he loved teaching. Until this very end, he loved teaching. Loved taking all kinds of classes, including economics with Uncle Freddie, his English teachers. You know, all of you know, as well as I know, and many of you better than I do, how he was so curious and would lean in and tilt his head in a certain way and ask questions to the depth that most people don't ask, maybe even making some of us feel a little uncomfortable, probing questions. He wanted you to go deeper and deeper. He wanted to know every single detail. Well, as the story goes, or at least as I understand it, after he graduated college, he considered HUC rabbinic school. Those of us who know him are not surprised. He was accepted, but you know, he wasn't really sure that he wanted to go to rabbinic school. So I can imagine Rabbi had some kind of arrangement with the people over in Minneapolis. And he said, you know, my son, he's coming up. Can you show him what synagogue life was like? And Hanna, I've got to tell you that when I was thinking about that conversation, I was thinking, but this person grew up in the synagogues. And yet it wasn't for that reason he went to Minneapolis. And we all know that. It was the magnetic pull of destiny, no less than that brought him to Minneapolis. It wasn't about his work. It was about his heart. And anyway, the synagogue at that time was imploding. The 23-year-old Steve, youth group director, meets 29-year-old Rachel, music director. Did I get that right approximately? And your first outing, because Rachel, you were very clear to say, we didn't really date, but your first outing was going to be slichot. How profound is that? Who does that? Slichot, and as I was thinking about it, slichot, that moment before the high holidays when the gates of heaven are opening. All that is good is opening, that there is in the Jewish tradition a cosmic shift. That was going to be your first time together. It makes perfect sense right now. And though you didn't share a lot of details, I'm sure you will, or you have at other times, it was fast and furious, that relationship. If Slichot was your first time together, then it was Passover with the Shapiro family that you announced your engagement. Grace and Marvin of blessed memory were there. And the family was kind of in shock. Here he moved away from home and comes back with a woman, and wait, he didn't really date much anyhow, and this is so fast. And there it was. You two were so sure. And you know what? Your family, your extended family, your truth tellers. So we all know that it wasn't always easy. And we all know the transformative power of forgiveness and love and acceptance. It changes everything in life, not only in relationships, but also in the core of our soul. So the point isn't that it wasn't always easy. The point is that there was love and acceptance and forgiveness. And Rabbi Shapiro of blessed memory told me way back when, I don't know if you remember, Rachel, I was there in Israel when the family took the trip, and I met you at some fountain in the middle of nowhere. Noah and Rose, you wanted to go playing in the fountains. You were younger, and we were there. It was a little chilly that night, and Rabbi pulled me aside and he says, this is such a good trip for our family. And he was so incredibly grateful. And Rachel, it was so powerful to hear that you and Natalie immediately immediately said, no, we're coming back home. Because frankly, since college, Minnesota was your home. And yet in this horrible moment, you knew that you had to be together. And when we sat together the other day, Rachel, listening to your admiration and your gratitude towards this family, your family, so much so that in your darkest hour, you gave them the greatest gift of all. You turned to Hanna and you said, Hanna, you and Mark raised a mensch, and I don't say that word often. And when I say it, I mean it. You raised a mensch, a good person. And we know that about now, Stephen would say something funny. Right about now. You all call it the family shtick. It's, I think, genetic. It apparently went from Marvin to Ben to Steve. I assume some of you else have it as well, but there we can definitely see the lineage. For those of you who don't know what shtick is, in this family, what it means is this sort of silly, joyful, funny way of being in the world. Telling songs, telling jokes, one-liners, imitating one another over and over and over again, always funny, always laughing. Natalie, you told me he used that shtick, he used that way of being to diffuse and disarm tense situations. He made people feel comfortable. And we all know that whatever was being said, there was always a twinkle in his eye, his mind always going to the next funny thing that he could say. He adopted so many people. Whatever you wanted him to be, he would be. Confident, an uncle, a father, a friend, quick with a nickname. I know that you were telling those incredible nicknames and I wasn't capturing it. And I know you could all repeat them right now. Always on top of things, always keeping in touch. He loved people and people loved him back. No question, he was generous with his time and his support. He collected souls. Every one of you has a story in which you believe that that is so absolutely true, especially for you. We were listening to the stories of the extended family, and not everybody was in the room at the time, and you have so many more stories that can be told right now. Debbie, how he would just end every call with, I love you, Debbie. And Joel, back in the olden days, how he would drive to, I think you said you were underage and driving to Kenosha to see those softball games. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Every conversation soulful, no subject too hard. And then let's not forget the dogs, his boys. And he loved the dog park. He loved the dog park, whatever dog park it was. He loved going into the dog park. And sometimes those dogs, I think you've got one right there on your lap, would go, there he is, would go on his chest and he'd say, Steve would say, I'm recharging their energy, recharging their energy. Steve was deeply committed to his father's legacy. It was an obsession of a faithful son. First of all, that beautiful book that he put together. But I just spoke to him, I don't know, maybe 5 days ago. We had a phone call. He looked beautiful, kind of radiant, though I don't think at the time I would have said that, but as I remember the phone call, the Zoom call, that's what it was. And why was he radiant? He wanted to talk to me about a few things, but mostly he wanted to tell me he found some papers that he hadn't seen before, bulletin articles, sermons. What should he do? Should he give it to the archives? Actually, he really wanted to do something with them. I know, Noah, you said, yeah, there were pictures compiled, labeled. He was always, always so present. And I know, Noah, that you were so curious and interested in this family history and the legacy and want to deep dive into that as well. Always so present, so caring. Ben, I know you and Barbara were so grateful of how he was so present with Mark, even though he lived far away. You know, oftentimes it's the son that lives far away that feels far away, but not in this family. He and Rachel came down very often and were always there to drop up a hat. It was never too hard, never too hard. Eliot, you have not stopped telling stories. This was a part of your identity. You and David were the boys. You, David, and Stephen. Each of you incredibly different human beings, and yet the sons. You're bonded and committed, Eliot, to your brother and his legacy. And you knew you were able to tell the story of who he was, you and Ellyn and your family, able to tell every detail. I know, David, again, as the truth tellers that you are, there are a lot of years between you, and sometimes those years created enormous distance, and you tell that story all the time, but you also tell that how in the last 3-4 years you were rebuilding a relationship as adults coming back to each other, keeping the power of that family. Noah and Rose, towards the end of our time talking together, you were telling so many funny stories. I don't think I could write that fast. Something about leave your volleyballs on the bus, which really meant valuables. Random dog pictures texted in the middle of the night. Something about Rose having a dream about you and a hat, and then actually finding the hat on Amazon. Something about movie lines, something about blowing a shofar at the preschool. And then when the rabbi said, you did, imitating him in a way that I cannot imitate him, and became part of the family saga where you laughed because this family likes to laugh. You like to laugh. It's good to laugh. Rachel, in your trusting, faithful, fierce heart, Steve unfolded into a deeply feeling and expressive soul. No less than that. Reflective, cherishing his feelings. He said at your renewal of vows and your 10-year anniversary, marrying you was like an Oprah episode. Woman with big feelings and men who loved them. The strength of your marriage was that you could talk about anything. Anywhere from news in the morning to complex issues to complicated feelings. You told us that his intellect was a great companion to you, and he made you laugh. When you came down and we stood outside, you said, I don't know where my spiritual life is right now. My heart is broken. And instantly I remembered the story and how God came into this world. It is said that the vessels of this world shattered into a million pieces to make room for God. And that in each of these shattered pieces, there's our sparks of life. And before I could even finish the story, you said, yes, yes, that was Steve's favorite story. And the two of us stood there with Natalie right then at that moment. And I swear to God, I saw those sparks of light. And you said with your hands like this, I feel that the sparks of light are reaching heaven. I feel like they're rising and rising. And I felt them with you on that doorstep. Natalie, you were his baby girl. Nothing like a daddy and a little girl. unconditional love and support. I know a lot of people say that, but I know that this was the case here. You were known by him, seen by him, always took care of everything, any question. He was devoted to you and always knew what was going on in your life. Your inner lives were very similar, introverted, perfectionists, adoring that part of each other, plagued by that part of each other at the same time, recognizing that in each other. Natalie, you said we had a moon thing. He would like text me a picture of the moon, or he would text me and say, go out and see the moon right now. Look how beautiful, look how full it is. Well, Natalie, you know what day it is in the Hebrew calendar? It is at the beginning of the new month, Rosh Chodesh. And the Jewish month is a lunar calendar. So though it is cloudy right now, if you were to look up at the heavens, what you would see would be a sliver of light. Because that's just kind of how it is right now. The day you bury your father, a sliver of light, and it is there. And though the rest is hidden, it is there. Because he would want me to say to you, and you know this, that he's proud of you. And you all have each other. Look at you now sitting in that room, and you will be okay. You will be okay. Let's continue to be honest. It wasn't an easy life. He had open heart surgery as a child, although I hear in the 70s he used that scar kind of as a badge of honor. He had diabetes, we all know this. At one point you lost your homes. You have suffered the loss of friends way too early, and now they suffer your loss with you. But these aren't the moments that defined him. As Rachel, you told me, he once said that you're born into this world and your life are pieces of the puzzle. These were moments that were just a piece of the puzzle. But when you look at the entire picture, I don't know, though the needlepoint is not finished and his name has not been stitched. And yet when you look at the whole picture, you know, the guy I see, one that is filled with honor and respect and love and curiosity and fun and relationships. He would be sitting on the shore in Mexico and he'd watching the waves go in and out, and the waves are going in and out. And all of you have heard me said numerous times that mourning is like riding the waves. Sometimes one takes you under and you don't think you can breathe, and other times you're riding right on top of it as if it's actually okay. And one day when you were watching those waves come in and out, he said, look at the top of the waves. You see how you could see straight through? And you were sure that what he would want me to say to you right now is, yes, there are waves. And at the crest, you can see right through that there is clarity, that it will become clear. Not why this happened, that we will never know. But the clarity of the beauty of his life and the depth and profound gratitude of the relationships. That will come clear as you ride these waves. We stand with you. We walk the path beside you. We are here to listen, to hold you. We know that his memory will be for a blessing. May his memory be for a blessing. We say the memorial prayer.
מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, אמצי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם הקדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת כתריאל בן הרב מרדכי וחנה, שלח לעולמו. בעל רחמים, יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו, לעולמים ויצרו בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Steve. He has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, as we all say, Amen. We offer Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayachon v'yomachon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael v'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ol almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudesha brichu ve'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran v'yalma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Go your way, for God has called you. Go your way, and may God be with you. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. To which we say, Amen. You can be seated. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It really does matter. Do not think that because you can't be physically here, that your presence is not felt. It is carrying them in this very moment. We will save the chat, which is so beautiful. Family will be able to hear from other people for services tonight at 7. Friday night services, of course, at 6 o'clock. We will say his name in our community. All are welcome. And then Saturday night, Shiva as well at 7. Thank you, and we will see you a little later.